Kurapika is one self-destructive son of a bitch. Apparently, this entire time that we have been with Kurapika's character, for all the stuff we have seen him do when he activates his abilities, there has been a massive restriction applied to his abilities that we were completely unaware of until just now in this chapter. This is honestly scary. So let me explain. So apparently, every second, like 1 second, okay? Every second equals 1 hour of Kurapika's life. So he has, his Emperor's time up for 5 seconds. That's 5 hours gone off of his life. So he's losing time, actual literal time to his life, every second that he has Emperor's time, awaken, and he's using it right then. So every time he uses his abilities, he's dying. He's straight up killing himself. And this is honestly very unnerving when you see how this was explained. So this is what Kurapika even states in this chapter. He's like, okay, so 1 hour of my time while Emperor's time is activated would equal 150 days. Now, in the grand scheme of things, 150 days isn't that long. I mean, it's a big chunk, but it's not that long. I mean, if you think about an entirety of a life, okay? 150 days isn't that big. However, it starts to add up very quickly. Remember what I said, 1 hour equals 150 days. That's what Kurapika said. While 24 hours, it would equal 10 years. 10 years in 24 hours. That's ridiculous. So that means in 1 full week, you're dead as fuck. That's even if you normally live that long, because usually life expectancy might be around like 80 years old, 70 years old, maybe 90 depending on your genes. Now, obviously this is Hunter x Hunter, and we have seen characters live a very long life. I mean, we even know about, Gon's relative that apparently has been living for a very, very long time. So we do know that when it comes to normal lifespans, it's a little bit longer. But still, the point is, Kurapika has been draining his life force every time he uses Emperor's time. So, when he's doing this, assessment of how much time he has, he's like, okay, 24 hours equal 10 years, 1 week, I guess it's out of the question. It's not realistic. He would die in a week, because there's most likely no way he would be able to survive that long if Emperor's time is just draining his life force. Now, one thing that this does reveal, though, is that Kurapika, he's on borrowed time. And Emperor's Time's actual name makes so much more sense now, because Emperor's Time, draining his life force. Every time he's using it, he's losing his life. But it also explains why the dolphin was trying to talk to Kurapika and tell him about what was going on. I mean, he just, hushed the dolphin. It's like he didn't want people to know how, when his ability's activated, obviously this is a big thing. The longer it's activated, the longer someone can stall him, he will die. That will happen. So, Kurapika, I'm honestly kind of scared for him right now. I'm legit scared for his character. I mean, well, not his character, because he's a great character. Togashi knows how to write his character. I'm scared for him as a person, actually, okay? If he continues down this path, this man will die. I don't think Togashi would kill him, out of nowhere. I feel like Togashi would have a perfect setup for his character, a good message for his character, but the way Kurapika is going, the path he is going down right now is so self-destructive that there is just no happiness in sight. And from what you can clearly see from what he's doing, especially with the restriction to Emperor's Time and how he uses his abilities, he does not care about his own life. He's willing to just throw it away for his goal. For instance, to get his clan's eyes back. He's willing to just completely die, and that would be it. He doesn't care. He's willing to throw his life away. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Kurapika doesn't care about people. We have seen that he can care about people. He cares about his friends, and he doesn't want to throw them away like they're pawns. We have seen this. I mean, there was even a chapter recently that showcased how Kurapika feels about his friends like Golem and Killua and Leorio. So we do know that he has compassion for others, but that compassion is definitely not for himself. He uses his body like a tool. He doesn't care about what happens to his body. And as we know when it comes to restrictions with Nin, the more restrictions, the more powerful the Nin ability is, or the abilities. And in this case, this restriction on Emperor's Time is why Kurapika is so hacked, why he is broken for years now, for so many years, okay? There has been so many discussions on Kurapika's character or in terms of his level of power, and many have said, why is he so broken? Why is this man so OP? Why can he do everything? Why does he have so many abilities? I mean, yes, he has a lot of restrictions, and it was thanks to the spiders to why he had these restrictions, why his nin was so powerful, but he had other things he could use that was very powerful, and on top of that, he had Emperor's Time. At that time, we didn't even know about the weakness of it, and so we're like, holy crap, this man's OP. He's just really strong. How can this man really lose because of how he is? I mean, it's not even the fact that the abilities are OP. Kurapika as a character, he's such a well-written character, he's so intelligent that he can get out of fights like it's nothing. It'll just take a couple of panels and he can whoop someone's ass. So, we've seen that already. So, I mean, Kurapika, he's someone that is an OP character, and it's not because it's bullshit, it's just, he's OP because of the way Togashi has written him, but it makes so much sense, and he's balanced as well. He's a perfectly balanced character, especially after finding out about this right here, this reveal to Emperor's Time. So, we know restrictions on Nin are powerful, but these restrictions that he has put on himself, like I said, a path of self-destruction. There is nothing waiting at the end. It's going to be a painful path, and he's probably not going to accomplish whatever he sets out to do. There's going to be a time when he's going to have a goal, and he's not going to be able to accomplish it because of these restrictions. Now, I will say, but finding out about Emperor's Time, I'll get back into talking more in depth about the abilities and stuff in a minute, but talking about in general about the possible options Kurapika has if he does start to care about his life, or if he needs to extend his life in any way because he has to accomplish a goal, I could see the man choosing two other options. Now, let me explain. Kurapika, as we clearly see, he doesn't care about his own self. He doesn't give a shit about what happens to his body, obviously. However, because of his goals and what he wants to accomplish, I could see him trying to find a method to extend his life for he can accomplish what he needs for the time being, and then he wouldn't care what happens to his body. So let me bring up two possibilities that could happen. So I have 2 pages pulled up. We have the zombie disease, or zombie disease, or whatever it's called, how you pronounce that. But a while back, when this arc first started, now many of you might have forgotten, and honestly, I could see why. As we know, there's big, breaks between the chapters. Togashi goes on massive hiatuses, and, it can be like 2 years until a new chapter comes out, and so you'll forget a lot of information. I mean, that's just Hunter x Hunter for you. That's what happens. It's not just the fact that the hiatuses are so long, it's also the fact that Togashi puts in so much information into every chapter. It's like you're reading a book. In all honesty, when you're reading a chapter of Hunter x Hunter, it's like all the information you get from the weekly chapters like I read, that's like everything from that chapter, like all the information kind of thrown into one chapter. That's just how much information is in each chapter of Hunter x Hunter. You gotta reread it, and reread the previous chapters just to get a solid understanding of what is going on. I love series like that, but it could be very difficult to follow. So if you forgot about the zombie disease, it makes sense. Don't beat yourself up over it, or, be upset with yourself, because honestly, it's a obvious mistake. I know I probably have forgotten a lot of things as well that I probably don't remember just because of how Hunter x Hunter is as a series. So anyways, getting into the zombie disease. So as we know, the zombie disease, it was introduced a while back when this arc first started. It was one of like the big things from the Dark Continent we found out about, and how someone literally got this disease. The lone survivor from this expedition, he had this zombie disease. He didn't really have his own mind or whatever, as you can see, but he was actually immune to death. This person was immune to death, or practically immune to death. So I could see Kurapika trying to find a way to get this, disease, but also retaining his mind where he's not crazy. I could definitely see the man trying to figure out a way to have that, because if he needs to extend his life, he can get this zombie disease, which, like I said, the zombie disease removes your, sanity. You're no longer, in control. You're not like yourself anymore, but I could see Kurapika finding a way maybe to keep his mind while having this where he can have a longer life. But then that brings up an entirely new issue, besides just the fact of keeping his mind. Immortality is a rough thing. I mean, knowing Togashi and how he writes themes and stuff of his series, I could see the man throwing in something about how immortality is not a good thing at all. If you live for a very long time, it's going to be very lonely, very miserable, and you're going to want to die. That's just how it is. I mean, you can probably enjoy yourself maybe a couple thousand years and be fine, but after so much time passes, you're basically going to say, oh my god, I just want to die because I have nothing really to do or nothing to live for. And so, I can see Togashi bringing that up into the series as well, but we'll see where that goes. But that is a possibility for Kurapika to survive if he wants to extend his life. But like I said, there's a big issue right there. Now also, another thing, we have the, nitro rice? I think that's how you say it. Nitro rice or nitro rice? Well, however you pronounce it, it's nitro rice. It is basically a plant in the Dark Continent, and if someone eats this, it extends their life. It completely extends their life. But obviously, there is a big thing here that plays into this part. That you have the hell bells that are going to be guarding this plant near that. So if you go near that area to try to get this, certain special plant to extend your life, you're going to have to fight something that most likely is going to beat your ass and just destroy you. It's probably going to be a fate worse than death. So that is another option Kurapika could go for, and I feel like that is the option he might go for, because honestly, when you think about the zombie disease, there's so many variables that it just might not work out, because I mean, if the man loses his mind, what's the fucking point? So I could see the man going the risk to get the nitro rice before he can extend his life, and it's very dangerous most likely. But in all honesty though, if Kurapika could extend his life in any way and able to, retain his mind, I feel like the zombie virus would be the best option because of how you can regenerate yourself and all that, but also how, you're practically immune to death in general. That would probably be the best option for him if he doesn't care about immortality. So, yeah, anyways, those are the two options that he has to his disposal if the Emperor Time becomes a massive problem, which I feel is going to become a massive problem eventually. Maybe not in this arc, but eventually it's going to become a problem, because we know, besides just this arc, Kurapika has used Emperor's Time before, so he's already shaved off some, probably years of his life. Maybe a year, a couple of years, we don't really know how long, but we know he's shaved off a lot of time from his life because of these abilities. Now, another thing we need to factor into is also Nin in general and how it actually extends someone's life. Let's look at Netro. He's a perfect example of someone that can live an abnormal long life because of Nin. And let's not even get into, Gon's relative that apparently has lived for a very fucking long time. Like, that man should have been dead a long time, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So, we do know that Nin, there is a possibility to extend your life if you get good with it. If you meditate and you get good with Nin and all that, and you dive in deep with it, you're able to kind of extend your life and live a longer life. And so, that is like a third option, but I don't think Kurapika has the time for that. Because of how he is, and how self-destructive he is, I don't think he would take the way that would take a long time. I feel like he would want something instant. He wouldn't want something that would be the long path. He would want something that would get him to his destination like the snap of his fingers. He would want it handled right then, right there. So I could see the man not going this path, but this is a secret third option. Maybe he is already aware of this as well, but if he was to, practice Nin a little bit more, be like Natro and just, for 50 years just punching his fucking fist and all that, maybe he would be able to extend his life and get stronger with his Nin, which would happen if he did that, but that's the point I'm getting at. That is another option, but I don't think Kurapika is willing to do that because of the type of person and personality he has. So, yeah. Anyways, though, let's talk about the ability, okay? So, Emperor's Time being activated with the Stealth Chain. I think that's the name, Stealth Chain. So, basically, this ability, the dolphin that pops up, like the robotic dolphin that steals people's abilities with the syringe and all that, sucks them out and all that, and then, it equips it, we found out that there's another actual ability to this. Kurapika is able to use the dolphin and actually equip the ability to someone else. Okay, so let me do an example here. Kurapika has the dolphin, okay? The dolphin has the ability loaded in it. Kurapika is able to use that dolphin to launch the ability. Okay. Kurapika then, if he doesn't want to use the ability, he can make the dolphin inject the ability into someone else. So, for instance, let's say Gon was there, okay? Let's use Gon as an example. Gon is there. Kurapika decides to inject the ability into Gon. Even though Gon doesn't have Nin, like he can't use it right now, he could still use the ability, because that is how this ability works. What Kurapika has right now, he can give people that don't even have the ability to use Nin the chance to actually use Nin. They can use Nin abilities. And the thing about this ability is that if Kurapika gives someone this ability, like any ability that he steals, he can then get another ability and equip it to his dolphin, and he can use an ability for himself. So from what I'm assuming is he can use 2 abilities. He can have 2 abilities, maybe 3, because he has 2 syringes on the Dolphin. Maybe he can have 1 syringe absorb an ability. He has another, syringe equipped, ready to fire, and then he can put another one into someone else, and he can load someone else up with an ability. Or, to make things even more crazy, I could see Togashi doing this, Kurapika could steal a bunch of variety of abilities, and he could possibly load up an entire group or a squad with these abilities. I mean, think about that. Judging by the way this ability works, maybe Kurapika, he can constantly suck out abilities and then put them into others, even if they can't use Nin. And so he can have a massive army behind him. But then, this gets into the technical side that is very difficult for him as a person. Now, as we know, Kurapika obviously doesn't care about his life at all. However, he does care about his time limit. He doesn't want to run out of time before he completes what he wants to complete. So because of that, I feel like Kurapika would be fine with probably giving a bunch of people abilities. However, he won't give a bunch of people abilities, most likely because of how hard it is to get rid of said abilities. Now, here it comes down to the restriction. As I said, Emperor's time, from what we found out, every second is 1 hour. And if this continues on, basically, you will die. You will die within a week. It would not be that long. So, looking at that, you could assume that if he was to have a bunch of abilities placed on different people, if they don't all use those abilities, the man will always have Emperor's time activated. It's a very risky maneuver. And even though he gave the actual queen the actual ability, his Emperor's time is still activated. He cannot deactivate it because of the ability. Remember, when the Dolphin is activated and has the equipped ability and all that, even if he gives it to someone else, from what we can see here, he cannot deactivate Emperor's time. So every second that passes, Kurapika is losing his life. So that ability needs to be used. If it's not used, he will die. That just end the discussion right there. So when he was talking about how he doesn't want to just equip any ability, random ability, it makes sense because this explains why he might not want to steal, Kuro's actual ability. This explains a lot now why he wouldn't want to do that, because of the restrictions of that ability. See, as I've already stated, if Kurapika was to steal Kuro's ability, what's the possibility that, that ability would ever disappear? Because of how it works with the bookmark and all of that, Kurapika might be stuck with that ability because of how it operates. So that would be a perfect way for, Kuro not to have his ability stolen by Kurapika if that ever did happen, because he probably wouldn't be able to lose it. He would die. He would run out of time. But also, this chapter does confirm something. It does confirm that even if the original user of the Nin dies, apparently the ability can still be equipped. Because remember what was stated in this chapter. Kurapika absorbed the Nin. Well, he gave the ability he previously stole. Little Eye, I think that's the name. He gave the ability to the Queen. And then he went around and he stole the other ability from the bodyguard Vincent in this chapter. And then he had it injected into the Dolphin syringe. He didn't equip it, but he had it in the syringe. And so, if he was to equip this, it would make it to where the man would have that ability, and he would definitely have to use the ability before he can deactivate Emperor's time. So, he would have 2 abilities he would need to use before, he can actually deactivate, so his time is ticking down. So, if the ability has a restriction that, it's very hard to do or use, then he's going to be stuck with that ability, and he won't be able to get rid of it. For instance, let's say, like I said, Kuro, he can't get rid of the ability because of how it works. He would be stuck, he would die. He just can't get rid of it. And so, that's what this chapter proves. And also, Nin after death, too. For instance, even if someone dies, it does seem like he can even keep the Nin and have it in a syringe, and he can inject it into someone else. That makes me kind of curious, though. If he does steal someone's Nin, but they're already dead, where does that Nin go? Because remember what was stated, the ability goes back to the person that died. So what happens? I mean, if the Nin is there and he uses it, and it's supposed to go back to the person with the, that had the original ability, what happens if they're already dead? What also happens if it's Nin after death as well? What would happen to Emperor's time and all that? There's a lot of questions here and a lot of variables that are very scary, honestly. So, yeah. The way this ability works is complicated, but it's balanced, and it's OP as fuck. So, yeah, Togashi, he managed to make Kurapika even more of a badass, but also to show what's the problem with his character, his flaw with his character, and how he just doesn't care about his own self. So, anyways, let's talk about the other stuff of this chapter. I think I've talked about Kurapika enough. I think I could talk about the politics and stuff like that. So, okay. I don't think this next part's gonna probably take too long. I think I probably have about another 5 minutes of this video, 5 or 8 minutes, but yeah. Okay, so the politics, basically, we have it to where the assassin, as we know, Vincent, he came in and he was trying to get information, get the ability knowledge of, Kurapika and all of them, and so he was trying to make it to where the queen would die as well, because he was trying to set it all up. Well, Kurapika, he read this, he was able to disarm the man, he was able to, make sure this man couldn't do anything, and he also stole the man's ability. And because of that, this man, he committed suicide. He killed himself with poison because he didn't want to actually give knowledge to any of them. If he was to give any knowledge, it would actually make the first king, or the first prince, actually, in a very bad spot. He would not be able to move like he would want. And so Kurapika, what he said is like, oh, I can make this man talk no matter what because I have the ability to do so. Even if he did or didn't have that ability, it doesn't matter. The point is he put that information out there because Kurapika was aware that this man was, had someone listening in. Since he knew that, he put that information out there to make it to where the first prince could not move in any way. Even if he didn't believe Kurapika, he would have that doubt in the back of his head, like, if this man did have an ability that can gain information from people and make you talk, force you to talk, then we can't just move in on this man and just instantly attack him or try to do things that can make us look bad. So that knowledge that Kurapika put out there was to make it to where the first prince can't initiate against Kurapika or the queen or the actual prince because of what he did with this entire situation with the assassination. Now, speaking of which, though, I want to just give my boy Bill real quick a quick shout out, okay? Now, I want to be honest here, I don't care much for Bill. Like, I'm not emotionally attached to the man, but I will give credit where credit is due. Bill as a character has definitely surprised me and surpassed my expectations. Now, if you don't know who Bill is, he's the guy that's with Kurapika. He's the bodyguard and all that. Bill is... wow, I'm really liking him as a character. I really hope he doesn't just die out of nowhere. I could see it happening because this is Togashi. But I really like Bill. I like his personality. And also, I was very surprised when the man tanked the bullets. I mean, we do know nin users can do that. But the way the man just rushed in like that, he wasn't just a simple bodyguard. He tanked a couple of bullets. And then he was able to do what he did. And Kurapika was able to disarm the man. Just, the man impressed me. So I like Bill as a character. I can't wait to see more of him because he's definitely someone that is capable of actually guarding the prince and the queen. Okay, so the next thing I need to talk about is the spare bodyguard. You remember in the last chapter, I talked about how there was one extra bodyguard, so most likely Benjamin, he could have sent one bodyguard or two bodyguards to someone. Well, it seems like the spare bodyguard is being sent to Kurapika, so that is coming into play. So the one bodyguard is no longer up in the air. Where is he going to be? He's going to be taking the spot of Vincent that died in this chapter. So now we know where the bodyguard's going to be at right now. Also, this man has been tasked with doing anything that is necessary, even at the cost of his own life, but also he's been updated to use his nin ability if he must. If he needs to use it, don't try to hide it, don't try to, withhold information, use your nin ability if you need to use it, don't hold back. So, basically, this man's been given the go-ahead to do whatever he needs to do to actually complete his mission. Now moving into the final part, we have it to where three princes are giving Kurapika a phone call. The first prince, which is Benjamin, the third prince, which is the monk, Zhang, or however you pronounce his name, and then the fifth prince is Tube. You remember the scientist and all that. The scientist I was talking about, a couple chapters ago that was trying to make an alliance with, someone that is the big, important person of this arc, Niche. I remember how he is the one that has Kurapika's eyes. Well, basically, these three princes called Kurapika and the queen and all that, and they are requesting, to talk to him. And so, what's being stated here is whoever Kurapika talks to first, the other two that get shafted, they're going to think that you're lying to them, that you've already set up an alliance and you're going to be doing something crusty to them, or, if they hang up, it's a declaration of war. They're coming for you. So, whoever Kurapika answers to, whatever, prince he actually decides to listen to, that will determine what's going to happen with the other two. Now, looking at the situation, looking at the first, the third, and the fifth prince, obviously, it wouldn't be wise probably to talk to the first prince, because he's already going to be having the bodyguard coming over there. We already know the bodyguard's coming, so he doesn't need to talk to the first prince. If you look at the third prince seems to be very wise, obviously. He's someone that is very knowledgeable, and he is definitely someone that clearly he wants to do his own methods, and he doesn't know what nin is, but he seems to be one that would be very understanding, and someone that you could possibly have a logical conversation with. Now, Tube, the fifth prince, Tube seems to be someone that wants to experiment on people, but also we do know what Tube wants to accomplish and what Tube feels about the others when it comes to the other princes and all that's beneath, you know, the actual prince, the 5th prince. So, I can see out of all of this, I can see Kurapika talking with the 3rd prince. But, the 5th prince makes more sense when you think about what Kurapika wants to accomplish. Kurapika, as we know, he wants to get near the other prince, his main prince, Niche, because if he's able to talk with him, the 4th prince, then he can get his clan's eyes back. So, since Tube has a connection with the 4th prince, I could see Kurapika wanting to answer Tube before he can get closer to Niche. That most likely is what Kurapika is going to do. That's his options that he's probably going to take. So yeah, that's about it when it comes to this chapter of Hunter x Hunter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.